task of the foregoing considerations was to interpret the primordial totality of factical Dasein with regard to its possibilities of authentic and inauthentic existing, and to do so existentially and ontologically in terms of its ground. Temporality revealed itself as this ground, and with this, it revealed itself as the meaning of being of care. Thus what the preparatory existential analytic of Dasein contributed prior to setting forth temporality has now been taken back into temporality as the primordial structure of the totality of being of Dasein. In terms of the possible ways in which primordial time can temporalize itself, we have provided the grounds for those structures that we only indicated earlier. Setting forth the constitution of being of Dasein, however, still remains only one way that we may take. Our goal is to work out the question of being in general. Our thematic analytic of existence needs in its turn the light from a previously clarified idea of being in general. That is especially true if the statement expressed in our introduction is retained as a standard for every philosophical investigation. Philosophy is universal phenomenological ontology, beginning with a hermeneutic of Dasein which, as an analytic of existence, has made fast the guideline for all philosophical questioning at the point where it arises, and into which it is folded 41 of course. This thesis must not be taken dogmatically, but as a formulation of the fundamental problem still veiled. Can ontology be grounded ontologically, or does it also need for this an ontic foundation, and which being must take over the function of this foundation? The distinction between the being of existing Dasein and the being of beings unlike Dasein, for example, objective presence, may seem to be illuminating, but it is only the point of departure for the ontological problematic. It is nothing with which philosophy can rest and be satisfied. We have long known that ancient ontology deals with reified concepts, and that the danger exists of reifying consciousness. But what does reifying mean? Where does it arise from? Why is being initially conceived in terms of what is objectively present, and not in terms of things at hand that do, after all, lie still nearer to us? Why does this reification come to dominate again and again? How is the being of consciousness positively structured so that reification remains inappropriate to it? Is the distinction between consciousness and thing sufficient at all for a primordial unfolding of the ontological problematic? The answers to these questions lie along our way. And can the answer even be searched for as long as the question of the meaning of being in general remains unasked and unclarified? We can never inquire into the origin and the possibility of the idea of being in general with the means of formal and logical abstraction, that is, not without a secure horizon for questions and answers. We must look for ways to illuminate the fundamental ontological question and follow. Whether that way is at all the only one, or even the right one, can be decided only after we have followed it. The conflict with respect to the interpretation of being cannot be settled, because it has not yet even been kindled. In the end, one cannot just rush into this conflict. Rather, igniting this conflict already requires a preparation. It cannot be jumped into, but the beginning of the strife already needs preparation. This investigation is solely underway to that. Where does it stand? Something like being, sane, has been disclosed in the understanding of being that belongs to existing Dasein as a way in which it understands. The preliminary disclosure of being, although it is unconceptual, makes it possible for Dasein as existing being in the world to be related to beings, to those it encounters in the world as well as to itself in existing. How is the disclosive understanding of being belonging to Dasein possible at all? Can the question be answered by going back to the primordial constitution of being of Dasein that understands being? The existential and ontological constitution of the totality of Dasein is grounded in temporality. Accordingly, a primordial mode of temporalizing of ecstatic temporality itself must make the ecstatic project of being in general possible. How is this mode of temporalizing of temporality to be interpreted? Is there a way leading from primordial time to the meaning of being? Does time itself reveal itself as the horizon of being?